Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Jojo Lara, and today I'm here to talk to you about 10 things you should know when renting an apartment in Lagos. So my first thing for renting an apartment in Lagos, especially for millennials, is if you don't have to rent and you don't have to move out of your parents' house, don't move out of your parents' house. I know it's very difficult because we all want our own space and we all want our independence, but guys, let's just be realistic. Let's talk about finances. Whenever you're renting an apartment, it's really important that you know that you're basically and essentially throwing money away. You're spending what you could be saving up to buy an apartment. So if you do have an auntie or an uncle, or you're comfortable at your parents' house, even though it might stress you out and can be annoying at times, just try and hold on for as long as you can and don't be ashamed about it. These are the times that we're living in. It's not something that is just happening here in Nigeria. It's happening all over the world. The economy has changed and we have to change with it. So if you can afford, or you have the luxury of staying with parents or relatives or friends or whatever it is, take that opportunity. Don't be ashamed about it and save your money. So the second thing I wanted to talk to you guys about when renting a place in Lagos is the fact that a lot of agents will waste your time. Now, thanks to the internet, everybody and anybody is acting as an agent. Anybody can take a picture of a vacant property in Lagos and call themselves an agent, basically. Things are not regulated as much as they should be. So unfortunately, when you do call for a listing, chances are the person that you're gonna end up communicating with might be incredibly incompetent. I personally have had an agent who I went to pick up close to the location, and she didn't have the address of the property. She didn't really know the property, and we sat there for like 30 minutes, well, not even 30 minutes. We sat there for all in all like an hour waiting for someone else to come and meet us that had apparently the key, the address, and everything. She knew nothing. So imagine like meeting up with an agent and waiting for an hour to see a property that you don't even end up seeing. So a lot of agents, unfortunately, will waste your time. I think it's really important that you gauge an agent. Make sure you ask them all the right questions and go straight to the point. That will help you cut out time wasters. Number 3. I feel like I have weird fingers.
Yeah.
Weird fingers. Okay. Okay, guys, so... Number 3. So, number 3 is location. Now, everybody wants to live in a nice, fancy location, but what you really need to focus on when finding an apartment is what is your daily commute going to be like? Where do you work? Where do you go to school? Where do you socialize? And then obviously, what is your budget? Your budget will obviously be the first thing that will shape where the location that you are looking for an apartment in. But once you look at your budget, second thing that needs to be your focus on is your commute. Because unfortunately, if you don't take into consideration your commute, you could end up potentially spending hours in traffic. For example, you might want to live in a luxurious location and you want to go for Ikoyi because you can afford it, which is great. But all your friends and your job and your office is in Lekki. Then you're going to end up in the third mainland traffic coming into the island every morning if your job is a 9 to 5, and then you're going to probably end up in it kind of going back. So that in a situation like that, living in the nicer location of Ikoyi as opposed to finding a place maybe in Lekki or in VI or wherever it is you live, this is just an example, it might not actually work out better for you. And to be honest, there is a study that does say that when you cut your commute time, it does make you happier in your life. So if you have the luxury of living closer to where you work and socialize and do most of your activities, then definitely go for that. Number 4. Now, number 4 is for the ladies. I know we are in 2019 right now, but in Nigeria, we're, I think, in 19 or 1785. I just pick a random year because unfortunately, as a woman, when you're trying to rent an apartment, you're going to experience a lot of sexism. So when I talk about sexism, what do I mean? I mean that people are going to look at you sideways just off the bat of you being a single woman who's trying to rent an apartment. Some people can't even fathom that idea. A lot of people have this idea that a single woman trying to rent an apartment is a prostitute because they don't live a certain life that they can afford these things. They want to project onto you what they know. So you're going to deal with a lot of sexism. Unfortunately, I would have to just advise you to take it in your stride, try not to be affected by it, and try to just focus on the deal at hand and securing the apartment that you want. Okay guys, so number 5 for renting an apartment in Lagos, unlike other places in the world where you pay for your rent monthly, unfortunately in Nigeria, you do have to pay for your rent most times a year in advance. Sometimes people will ask you to pay 2 years, but I want you guys to know that legally, they're not even allowed to ask you to pay your rent 2 years in advance. So that's a little tip for you. And if you kind of tell them that you're not actually allowed to demand 2 years rent, then usually they'll like back down or whatever, because people will always want to secure 2 years rent. But it's an option. Some people might decide to pay the 2 years if they're really trying to lock down a really good apartment. But if you can negotiate to a year, then I would definitely say negotiate to a year, because you don't even know how the market is going to be in a year. And another thing about paying your rent yearly rather than monthly is that, of course, it's a lot of pressure initially, but once you have paid your rent, I think the fact that you don't have to worry about rent every single month is actually a big stress release, because as opposed to living in, for example, for me living in the UK, it was like as soon as you paid your rent was coming back round and was going to be due again. So it takes the pressure off. So it's like a pro and a con depending how you want to look at it. So number 6, when you rent an apartment in Lagos, you are going to be asked to pay a service charge. This will cover things like your security, water, some general maintenance, and some other things like that. Apart from paying a service charge, what they might also ask you to do is pay a diesel deposit. Now, this is if you're in a service apartment that has a generator, and it basically just means the diesel that they're going to put in the generator. Sometimes people include this in the service charge, and other times some people have it as a separate fee. Always try to negotiate these prices down, because remember that the initial figure that they give you is probably not what they're actually looking for. They just give room for negotiation. So number 7, power. Now, for me, moving from the UK to Nigeria, having 24-hour electricity was an absolute must. It was something that I just couldn't compromise. However, there are different styles to match different people's schedules. So some apartments, like I just said, schedules. They have schedules where they have light between this time and it goes out. Now, if you spend most of your day in an office or working or doing whatever you do and you're not at home, this might be a really good way to save money for you. If you're someone that works from home or just doesn't want to have to ever think about power, then you probably want to get a 24-hour serviced apartment, which is obviously a premium and it's a luxury. So you will have to be willing to pay the extra for that. It's good to make sure that you ask your agent to talk you through the generator and when they bought it and how often they service it. The more you sound like you know what you're talking about, the less they're gonna like play you. So do your research and don't be afraid to ask questions. So number 8. So now imagine you've rented your apartment, you've moved in, fantastic, great. A big issue that you're going to have to deal with when renting an apartment in Lagos is maintenance. Maintenance. Let me just have a moment of silence for the amount of your life you will spend on maintenance. Unfortunately, quality of construction it's a struggle in Nigeria. So chances are, even if you move into a brand new apartment, I was lucky enough to move into a brand new apartment. At the time, you're still going to have to deal with a lot of wear and tear, because a lot of the things are just not done to a really high standard. So it's really important that you have a plumber, an electrician, an AC man. You're probably going to need a painter, because the paint they use is probably not going to be a great quality paint. And in a year, it's probably going to look horrible. A scritter, because most of your walls are probably going to start peeling off. If you have to work on your own power, you're gonna need a generator guy. You're gonna need a TV guy, a DSTV guy. Someone that's probably gonna have to like set up your stabilizers and that thing so you can change your DSTV in your room. You're gonna need a gen guy, a fuel guy, because I know some people buy fuel from like a person. Yeah. You're gonna need someone who will probably change your gas for you, because I don't know about other people, but I don't really like to change my gas myself. It scares me. So someone that can come and take the canister and change it if you build a relationship. So you're gonna need like basically tons and tons of people. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are gonna let you down. The amount of times I've had something fixed in my house, and as soon as they left, an hour or two, it's broken, especially with stuff like your AC. I've literally recently had an issue with one of my ACs in my house where it's leaked after they did a maintenance check on it. And they've been back 3 times to fix it. And as soon as they leave, after like an hour or so, it just starts leaking again. So basically, just be prepared that you're gonna spend a lot of time. Luckily, maintenance here is a lot more cost efficient. It's a lot more affordable. So you might not have to spend as much as you envision on maintenance, but just the time that it takes, especially having like different people come into your house to fix things, you might want to physically be there to like overlook what they're doing and just make sure that, you know, they're doing the right thing. Again, ask tons of questions. If someone's fixing something, I always try to ask them to explain what the problem is and what they're doing. And even just asking them that simple question, you'll see the difference in their attitude towards fixing the problem. So initially, they might have just been doing some like patch rubbish, but because you've asked them what actually is the problem, then they will like do a deeper investigation and try and actually figure out what they're actually doing and do something substantial. And obviously, the more you deal with these people, the more you learn, and then the more you're able to have better conversations with them. So like, I'm still learning. I've only lived here for about 2 years now. But I can say to my AC guy, so is it the pipe? Is the pipe backed up? Is it the fan? Is it this? Is it that? And simply by asking these questions, you're almost challenging them a little bit, and it makes them actually do the work much better, and you actually end up getting better results. So number 9 is all about water. Now, in most apartments, that your water is most likely going to be pumped, and you're probably going to have a water tank at the back. So it's important for you to really pay attention to the water that comes out of your taps. You need to be aware that at any time, unfortunately, something might go wrong. Now, a horrible experience I once had was where I had one of those little tablets that you put in your toilet, which basically brings out bleach every time you flush your toilet. Luckily, I had done this because something went wrong with the piping, and basically my toilet water was going into my shower water. So basically, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably would have seen it, because I didn't even understand what was going on at first. All I noticed was that I had blue water. But this was quite extreme. Luckily, I was able to easily get it fixed. But just the fact that at any time you have to be aware that something might go wrong, even slight discolorations in your water, with it being a bit yellowish or brownish, you need to be very vigilant, especially when you're putting this stuff on your skin, and also not to drink the water. If you do notice something wrong with your water, it's important that you either call a professional to come and have a look at it, or speak with your facilities manager if you're in a service department. Number 10, and my final tip for today, is security. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people that have lived in or moved to Nigeria will probably have 1 or 2 stories to tell you about security lapses in their buildings, where unfortunately most of the time it's an inside job, where maybe your security that have been hired, or your gate men have, you know, somehow gained access to your apartment, or leaked information of how to access your apartment, or fraternized with maybe your staff if you have a maid, or any other kind of domestic staff to gain access to your apartment. And unfortunately, this is one of the biggest ways that people experience security issues in their apartments. So once again, it's very important that obviously you treat the people that are securing your building nicely with respect, not for you to automatically be suspicious of everyone around you, but to always be extremely vigilant. Once you move into an apartment, I would recommend that you straight off the bat change all the locks in the apartment, because chances are, whilst viewings have been going on, a lot of different people have had access to your apartment and could still have a spare key. Also be careful who you leave your keys with. Again, with domestic staff, you need to be very careful the kind of access that you're giving them into your apartment, especially when you're first getting to know them, or you first moved into a new environment. Domestic staff are unfortunately a way for anyone to kind of gain access to your apartment. So in terms of security, it's very important that you are vigilant who you allow in your house, and how you operate and how you lock your doors, and just being extremely careful. I mean, just like you would anywhere else in the world, really. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that I was able to give you guys a couple of tips about renting an apartment in Lagos. If you have any more questions, then please let me know. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and drop a comment on what kind of videos you'd like to see coming up. Thanks for watching, guys.